Good morning.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. I am Meredith Kroger. I am the Library Media Specialist, and I coordinate our Gifted and Advanced Learning program here at Hampden. And you can see we have lots of staff members and current parents with us today to answer all of your questions. So if we could have staff members go ahead and introduce themselves. Dr. Foster, we can start with you.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Katrina Foster, and I am the principal of what we like to be called as the greatest school on earth, Hampden Elementary. So welcome.
Hi, I am Jill Cardarella.
Good morning, everyone.
I am a first grade teacher, and I am the PTO treasurer at Hampden.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deshawn Frazier, assistant principal here at Hampden Elementary Middle, school number 55.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mohammed Benyamin. Everybody knows me as Mr. Moo. I'm the physical education and health teacher at Hampden Elementary Middle, and welcome.
Miss Aliel, you jumped in at the perfect time. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name is Mrs. Aliel. I am the 4th grade language arts and social studies teacher.
And for our current parents who are with us, do you mind introducing yourselves?
Sure, I'll start. I'm Simon Torres. I'm a parent of a 4th grader, Cullen, who is in Mrs. Aliel's and Mrs. Schumacher's classes. I am the current president of the Hampden55 PTO. Started in that role last summer and hold the role, unfortunately for everybody here, until next summer.
I'm Sam Hopkins. I'm the vice president of the PTO, and I'm the father of 2 Hampden students, one in 1st grade, one in 3rd, and we've been with the school since pre-K.
Hi, I'm Mary Bruno, and I have a 6th grader and a 2nd grader who have also been there since pre-K.
And Mrs. Hunter, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, trying to get teams together. I'm sorry. Good morning. I'm Mrs. Hunter, educational associate at Hampden Elementary Middle, as well as a parent of a 2nd grader at the school. Yeah.
And I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Dr. Katrina Foster, and my son is in the 5th grade in Hampden Elementary Middle.
All right. So we are going to go through just a quick presentation with some information about the school and show you some pictures. A couple parents had asked if they could see what the inside of the building looked like. So we'll go through some pictures and do kind of a virtual tour that way. And then we will open up our panel for you to ask all of your questions, and we will answer as much as we can. There is a chat feature, and if you have a question while I'm presenting, feel free to just put it in the chat. Mrs. Cardarella will be moderating those. She might just be able to answer your question right in the chat, or she won't be afraid to stop me in the middle of presenting and ask your question. So just make sure you can open the chat and ask questions that way. All right, so you will see pictures in this presentation that are both from pre-COVID and current pictures. Parents had asked about seeing different pictures so that they could get a feel for the school and what it looks like previously and what it looks like currently. And thank you to everybody who completed that survey. Your questions were wonderful, and I got a really good feel for what information you wanted. So I tried to include as much of it as I could in the presentation. But any other questions that you have afterwards, you will have a chance to ask. And Dr. Foster, your face is the only one that I can see. So if anything is going wrong, just give me a signal.
I know how that feels.
I know, right? Okay, so we'll start just with some basic information about Hampden. We have about 450 students in grades pre-K through 8. We have 2 classes currently at each grade level. There are 3 major hallways. A couple questions had asked, like, do pre-K students interact with the middle school students? So there are 3 major hallways in our building, one for pre-K to 2nd grade, one for our 3rd through 5th graders, and then a middle school hallway for our 6th through 8th graders. We do have 3 full-time resources available for students. So they have physical education, art, and library. And they have those resources each one at least once a week. Some of them, they have more than once a week, depending on their schedule. And we do have free breakfast and lunch available for all of our students. You don't have to apply or do anything. It's just available to all of our students every day. Some additional staff members who are in our building to support students and families. We have 4 full-time special educators. We have paraprofessionals and aides throughout the building who may assist in different classrooms or may assist specific students or groups of students. We have a full-time speech language pathologist, a full-time social worker, a full-time school psychologist, an ESOL teacher, a gifted and advanced learning teacher, and our PEAL team, which is prevention and intervention for early learners. So lots of supports that are in place for our students within the school and then also to support our families. And then just a few things that we are very proud of at Hampden that I wanted to share with you. We are currently an E-Gate school, which is Excellence in Gifted and Talented Education. That is an award that we get from the State Department of Education. We are a green school, which was quite the application process. I'm sure Mr. Moo could tell you more about it later. But all kinds of things that students and teachers had to do for us to get certified as a green school. We are a PBIS Gold School. PBIS is the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And so we had to work our way up to a Gold School for PBIS. And then we also have participants in the Special Olympics who place every year, which is exciting for our whole school. Dr. Foster, anything there I missed that you wanted to add?
Well, I want to brag on Mr. Moo a bit.
Oh, yes, I will brag on Mr. Moo. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you do it. You do it.
Yeah, I have him later. He's going to be embarrassed because I have a picture of him. But Mr. Moo, our PE and health teacher, just won the Ravens Touchdown for Teachers Award. There were 175 people nominated, and he unanimously won that vote and was presented with his award last week at school. So just a few introductions, probably the first faces that you will see when you come into Hampden. Dr. Foster is with us, and so is Mrs. Frazier, our principal and assistant principal. So they are here to answer questions today. Mrs. Hunter is also here with us, our educational associate, and then Mrs. Young is probably the name that you will hear the most during this presentation because she does all things at our school. She is the office director and also the registrar, so the person that you will talk to about registering your child if you decide you're interested in Hampden. Mrs. Cardarella, anything in the chat before I start our virtual tour?
Nope, there's nothing right now.
Okay, great. So a couple parents had asked, is there any way to be able to see the building? Currently, the policy for Baltimore City is that people who do not work or go to school in the building can't be in the building. So we thought that the best thing we could do is give you kind of a picture tour so that you could get a feel of what the building looks like. So our front office and our main hallway, when you come in, you can see in our main hallway, we have our living wall, which we got, I guess, about a year and a half ago. And this hallway has our cafeteria. This is where students would come in first thing in the morning. And the pre-K to 2nd grade hallway is all down this main hallway. They are all on the 1st floor. our cafeteria. This is a pre-K classroom before COVID. So you can get kind of an idea for how students are grouped together and what classrooms look like. Also pre-COVID pre-K. And then this is our setup for pre-K right now with the current COVID precautions. So you can see students are separated and wearing masks, but that they do still have an opportunity to be on the floor and out of seats and working at a safe distance from each other. This is one of our kindergarten classrooms before COVID. And this is a current 6th grade classroom. I know we have a couple parents who are looking to bring their child for middle school for next year. So I wanted to just get a feel for what a 6th grade classroom looks like currently. You'll hear us say a couple times during this presentation, I'm sure that we don't exactly know what next year will look like. We're waiting to see, but we did want to give you an idea of what it looks like currently. And then these are some of our middle school classes before COVID working in the science lab. This is Mr. Moo in the gym. You can get an idea of what the gym looks like. It is everybody's favorite place in the building. As much as we like to act like maybe it's somewhere else, it's always the gym is their favorite spot. And this is Mr. Moo receiving his Ravens Touchdown Teacher of the Year award last week. We had quite a few questions about the Library Media Center, which made me very happy. We do have a Library Media Center that was renovated through the Weinberg Foundation. I guess it's been about 3 years now, but it is recently renovated and we have over 15,000 books and growing in our library. We do have a full-time library media specialist, which is actually me. And then we also have a library clerk, Mrs. Norman. And so students might see me or Mrs. Norman for their library time or some combination of both of us when they come to visit the library. We also have quite a few partnerships through the Weinberg Foundation with the Humane Society is one of our most recent ones that our students were able to have dogs come every week and read to the dogs, and they really loved that. We have partnerships with the Food Bank and Enoch Pratt all through the Weinberg Foundation partnership. Lots of questions about recess also, so I wanted to make sure that we showed some pictures and we'll talk a little bit about recess after this. This is pre-COVID students playing outside for recess. We have a large space in the front with a brand new playground if you've been outside of our school anytime recently. And then we also have a smaller outdoor classroom in the back of the school where students can also go outside for recess or with their teachers. And then this is a picture of recess currently. You can see there are circles, thanks to Mrs. Hunter, on the ground to kind of give students an idea of how much space is appropriate. But they do have their own bags where they're able to pull out all of their own recess supplies and have some outdoor time after lunch. So there is recess currently. We're just kind of being creative in what that looks like to make sure that we are still following all of our safety precautions. Mr. Torres, would you like to talk about the PTO a little bit?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Simon Torres. I am the PTO president. My vice president and treasurer are both on this Teams meeting. I was going to say Zoom Teams meeting, Mr. Hopkins and Ms. Cardarella. It's a pleasure to speak to everyone today. We're happy to talk to you about the PTO and answer any questions you have about our role with the school and just in general about the school, which we all love, which is why we're on the PTO. In a nutshell, we are an organization, all volunteer, that seeks to serve as a bridge and as a conduit to our teachers and our support staff and our parents. We view our role as a really important one to provide support to our school and serve as a facilitator of questions, of concerns, of ideas in particular that our parents have to help improve our school, help improve our kids' educational experiences, and to be able to provide the necessary external support that our school may need, especially in difficult times like these. For instance, the PTO has donated money and time to help the school acquire books this year. We have participated and helped organize fundraisers for parents that were in need this year for one form or another. One of our parents last fall suffered a catastrophic flood of her house. And so the PTO mobilized, and through the generosity of our parents and our supporters, were able to present a sizable donation check. So in normal times, the PTO will organize fundraisers and other events to help raise money to provide educational, social, and sort of extracurricular athletic activities for our students. This year, because of COVID, we really haven't had a chance to do that. We're hoping that things will snap back in some form next year, but we are here. We love new participants. We welcome current participation, and we really hope that we see each and every one of you and your children at the school next year. Sam or Jill, anything to add to that?
No, you did a great job.
Thanks, Mr. Torres. And then I don't know if any of our current parents who are on feel comfortable speaking about Friends of Hampden. Otherwise, I can share a little bit about it.
I mean, I'll even say with as the PTO vice president and just someone who's been in the neighborhood, walking distance from number 55 for 8-9 years now. I've known about Friends of Hampden, and they've got a great reputation because they do great work. PTO, we're all friends in real life, and as organizations, we partner, and I'm sure you can give more details about all they've accomplished and will.
Yeah. Friends of Hampden is a nonprofit organization that families started so that they could do a little bit different fundraising than we are able to do officially through the school. They have raised quite a bit of money for our school. Dr. Foster, can you share maybe some of the things that Friends of Hampden, some of the big things that they've been able to raise money for?
Sure. So actually, I looked at it yesterday. So when I came to the school in 2017 and met with the Friends of Hampden, we really thought through how we could, you will hear me use this word reimagine a lot, but how we could make the school space inviting and engaging for families and for kids. So fast forward, they secured a grant with Rural Farms to create an outdoor classroom that is in active construction right now. It is absolutely beautiful, and we hope to release it out for their groundbreaking in June. So that's just some of the things we think about. They have helped to really repair, replace, and paint the playground property that we have. And us becoming a green school, the green wall that you saw came because of their generosity and their support. So we definitely, when Mrs. Torres says we're friends in real life, they have been tremendous partners to us as we really make our school the best school that we can for our families, including us as individuals, but all the kids that we serve.
Thanks. All right. So I am going to talk about registration. I'm sure there are lots of questions about that. So that'll be the last thing that I talk about before we go to our panel. But there were definitely questions that came up a lot on the surveys. So I wanted to make sure that we took a couple minutes to answer these questions because we know that lots of families are thinking about the same thing. And the number one question, of course, that everybody had was about full-time learning in the fall and whether it will be in person and what that will be like. So Dr. Foster, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So the official statement is that Baltimore City Public Schools will fully be open with in-person learning for students in all grades every day for the fall of the 21-22 school year. So that's the official statement that we, not just me, but we plan to open for in-person for all kids at all grades 5 days a week. Now, transparency, what that looks like, what restrictions, what mitigation strategies, what virtual learning will look like if kids do a virtual academy. I don't know the answer to that right now, but I do know that we will fully reopen for all kids 5 days a week.
Great. And you started to maybe touch on, we don't know exactly what safety protocols will look like in the fall, but maybe you could talk about just what protocols we have in place now for COVID.
Sure. And you all saw the photos of it as well. So right now, even with the CDC's recommendation of 3 feet of social distancing, we still maintain 6 feet of social distancing. We do temperature checks and health screenings for everyone who comes into the building every single day. If a child suspects that they have COVID, parents suspect that their child has COVID, we really recommend that they stay home. But we still do pool testing weekly. Those test results for asymptomatic folks are sent to a lab for processing. And then if the pool of folks, because folks are broken into pools or pods, if that group, someone tests positive, then the entire pod has to quarantine. So a pod is like a classroom. They have to quarantine, and we've experienced that before too. Abundance of sanitizer, abundance of wipes. We wipe down the furniture and things every day. We have loosened some of restrictions when it comes to, yep, and I can answer that question. Yes, teachers do teach simultaneously for the students who are virtually and in person right now. That will not continue in the fall, though. In the fall, we will be fully in person. Our teachers will not be the ones who teach virtually. But right now, yes, they do teach virtually in Zoom and for the kids who are in the classroom. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else, Mrs. Hunter, Mrs. Frazier, I should say about this? I mean, we just got to the point where we're letting folks in the cafeteria to eat lunch. But again, social distancing is a big deal. So we do separate, and you all saw what recess looks like, but we've been able to figure that out. I can't think of anything else. Can y'all think of anything else?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay.
Great. So, thank you. And thank you for the question in the chat. Feel free to ask your questions as we go through. Somebody had asked if the school can release any information about staff immunization.
No, we can't release that information publicly due to HIPAA. We can't release it.
Okay. What resource classes are available? We have physical education, art, and library are our 3 resource classes. Students will attend all 3 of those, some once a week, some more than once a week. We do have recess. You saw pictures of what it looks like currently. We're not exactly sure what it will look like next year, but Dr. Foster, I think the question was more around there will be some form of recess in the future, right?
Absolutely. So that's maintained as a key kind of in the recipe of what makes our school great. Recess is a part of it. Coach Stuffy is our resource coordinator. So we do have a full-time person who provides recess programming for students in grades pre-K through 5. So I also want to make that clear. Recess occurs in grades pre-K through 5. It does not occur for grades 6, 7, and 8.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about class sizes and how we organize our classes?
Sure. So the magic number for us is 25. We have had in the past classes go up to 27, but that's like the biggest that we would get. We do have 2 classes per grade, and that's not changing because literally there are no other classrooms in the building. For younger grades, we really do really organize classes heterogeneously, so it's a mixed kind of complement of folks, regardless of ability. And we try to think about equity a lot. So gender, ethnicity, social. We don't really know the SES because again, much is universal for all. Um, as the students get older, though, we do offer honors classes. So that's more so in the middle school where that begins. But generally speaking, we're pretty heterogeneously grouped. In the actually what is going to happen for us in the next couple of weeks is teachers meet before school year lets out to help us with reorganization and preparation for the fall. We don't, so I want to tell you all this too. Um, we do listen to families in their preference, but we are not bound to that. But you're welcome to share your thoughts about it, and we definitely consider those. And teachers are able, because they work with the kids that they have, they're able to help us really figure out how to reorganize the students for the future grades. So there's a total conversation, series of conversations that happens amongst teachers. And something else that I think is again another part of the recipe that makes our school great. We have very low teacher turnover. So over 90%, 95% of the teachers have stayed at Hampden for several years. So, it's probably a good chance that like my son, I'll use him as an example. His second grade, and third grade, and fourth grade, and fifth grade teachers are there now. So, that kind of collaboration happens often because we have such a low teacher turnover rate.
Thank you. And also I'll add, in addition to heterogeneous grouping, there are some pull-out supports that are available for different students in elementary based on what they need. So if they need reading support, or if they have an IEP, or are gifted or advanced, those are all pull-outs that happen from their classrooms in the elementary level. Mrs. Cardarella, you are our early learning specialist on this call. Would you like to address this one?
Sure. So in pre-K, it is a more play-based curriculum. Students have the opportunity to engage in play-based activities centered around a academic content area. So for example, math and literacy, they work on those centers at different times to interact with their peers and learn from each other. They also engage in recess, just like the rest of the school. As we move into K, though, K does become a more academic structure with opportunities to engage in centers also centered around different content areas like math and literacy, using manipulatives, working with peers, and stuff like that. But again, it is more academic based. They have a structured curriculum like Win Wisdom and Eureka Math. They also do have enrichment activities, like we said before, with the PE, art, and library, and then with different opportunities throughout the year for like future makers and other ones just flew out of my head, but like other activities like that. If it's field trips or we've had also field trips come to the school and do presentations like that. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. And then our last question, and Mrs. Hunter, if you're here, you're probably our best person to talk about this one. What does discipline and conflict resolution look like at Hampden?
Sure. Just in transition, you guys, if you hear any background.
Oh, sorry.
So what happens is, in terms of our PBIS, we think about positive behavior intervention support. And so we're always trying to think about how to be proactive as opposed to reactive. So in terms of student behavior, we think about what's developmentally appropriate and what support students would need and to be able to get to the result that we would like. So we have a lot of conversations with students to try to figure out what is the reason behind the behavior, what their concern is. They feel like they're not being heard. They feel like so we have some other things that are taking place with the different grade levels. So, a lot of conversations, a lot of just, trying to figure out what the reasons are before we, give any consequences to students. But we do follow Baltimore City's Code of Conduct, and that's really, what kind of is behind our philosophy.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunter. And I think all of our teachers and staff members would also agree that we know that our relationships with students is the number one part of discipline, right? So all of our staff members having strong relationships with students is where all of our discipline and conflict resolution starts. So I think as a staff, that's one thing that we do really well. Mrs. Cardarella, any other questions in the chat while we were going through those?
Nope, no more questions.
Okay, this is my last slide, and then we're going to open up for the panel. If there is one thing that you listen to, take from this presentation today, it is the bright red email address that is on your screen for Mrs. Young. A lot of questions around registration. What does it look like? So I will give some very basic information from Mrs. Young, and then she requested that email is the best way to contact her if you have any specific questions about your child and enrollment. So pre-K registration for Baltimore City has 2 priority groups. You can go on Baltimore City Schools website to figure out which priority group you would be a part of. Priority group 1 opened on May 10th, and then priority group 2 opens on July 1st. So we are currently taking priority 1 pre-K students, and then the spots that are still available by July 1st can be filled by priority 2 students. Kindergarten registration for next year started on May 10th and is ongoing. And then all other grades take place over the summer when we get an idea of how many spaces we will have available in grades 1 and up. And contacting Mrs. Young is the best way to do that, to figure out if there's a space in the grade that you're looking for, and she can give you an idea of when she can definitely tell you whether there will be a spot or not. Miss Frazier or Dr. Foster or Miss Hunter, anything else about registration that you'd like to add?
No, I think you gave everything. It is a fully online process. So just in terms of preparation, you'd have to make sure you have your documents available to upload. But if you have any questions, Ms. Young is more than willing to help assist.
Yeah, Ms. Young is really the best person.
And she knows all, so we just send everybody to her.
And I also included, Ms. Kroger, I also included the link in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And I will send out an email tomorrow to everybody to all the families that are on this call, and I will make sure that I also put Ms. Young's email in there again. We're talking about Ms. Young's email a lot, but she really is the person who is the best to answer all of these questions since she is the registrar at our school.
We do have a question.
And the only thing I would say, Ms. Kroger, outside of that is to please just give her some wait time. So in terms of like responses for things, because we're still in person for learning, like, she's balancing the in-person as well as the future registration. So if you feel like, again, it's been a day, just kind of, give her that 3 days just to make sure, that she has a chance to respond, whether it's with email or phone call.
There's a question in the chat. Is there an on-site before and after care program?
Oh, great question. Dr. Foster, do you want to talk a little bit about what we think that might look like for next year?
Sure. So, and notice what we're saying, we think, but we think. So we do have a partnership with Fitness Funding Games to provide on-site aftercare programming. We don't provide before care because our school day begins at 7:45 and we open for breakfast at 7:15. So we don't provide before care, but breakfast is open it was open at 7:15, and then classes start at 7:45. So on-site aftercare is through Fitness Funding Games, and Coach Duffy is the person for that. We have several partners outside of the school, though, that are in the school's neighborhood that provide after-school programming as well. I can tell you it's Fitness Funding, Hampden Family Center, Roosevelt Rec, and Good Shepherd United Methodist Church. Those partners, I don't know yet what their plans are for the fall, but I would recommend contacting them because I don't know. But by way of what's happening on site, our plan is for Fitness Funding games to resume in the fall. And it's at a cost too, but again, I don't know like the specifics. Coach Duffy would know better than me, and she's available at the school. You can give her a call, or we can share her email.
I will put Coach Duffy's email in my email that I send to you guys again tomorrow, just to kind of give you all these details in writing. So now we have gone through all of the information. I know that was a lot. So now I would like to just open up for any questions that you have, anything that you're wondering or follow-up questions. It can be for any of our staff members or any of our current parents if you're looking for their point of view on anything at the school.
I guess I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, we're kind of struggling a little bit because we have a rising pre-K who is currently in, a daycare environment where they're much closer to each other. They're all masked, but, they're all playing and everything. So the 6 feet distance feels like a very big change. Is there some sort of timeline or some sort of guidance forthcoming from the school district around potentially decreasing that to 3 feet? Or is that something we would potentially know before next year? And also, would that apply to aftercare as well, where they're all 6 feet apart? So meaning, like 10 hours a day being separate from people?
So
no, it's
no problem. It's not a bad question. So when it comes to the reopening guidance regarding space, that's a message that comes from city schools, not our school specifically. But I would encourage you to read between the lines of this statement. Okay, Baltimore City Schools will fully reopen with in-person learning for students in all grades every day for the fall of 2021. One of the things that we recognize with 6 feet apart, there was but so many students that we can fit in person, right? So read between the lines of it. I haven't heard officially because we're in this school year what the plans are, but that statement kind of gives me some clues as to what those things will look like. And surely, we will definitely publicize it to the masses once we hear more information.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions that you have, feel free to just unmute and jump in. Awkward teacher wait time.
I think that means you did a good job of capturing.
Well,
could I volunteer something?
Yeah, go ahead.
A little delayed, maybe. I just wanted to say one of the most impressive things about Hampden is that there's a lot of really sensible and sensitive thinking about learning differences. And I don't mean that like capital L, capital D, but just that my family with 2 very different kids with different brains, we've benefited from early consistent communication from the teachers and to the teachers, and there's always been receptiveness on their sides and a quick and balanced way to involve school level or district level processes where appropriate, but just like a really sophisticated sense of getting your kid the best learning outcome. And I just want everyone to know that no matter whether someone's already on IEP or something, or the early intervention that was mentioned, they're just so many ways, and I just encourage everybody, especially these days, if you're a new parent, Class Dojo, we have these apps that are used to communicate these days, but they're just, all the teachers are very, very communicative, and that goes all the way up to the administration. So I just wanted to say that.
I would amplify that. It's a great point. And now is the time when you're considering your options to sort of both begin to familiarize yourself with the communication processes and who you're talking to, whether it be Dr. Foster or Miss Frazier or Miss Young or anybody, Miss Hunter, or it's the PTO or it's friends. Cast your nets wide. We understand. We have all been in this position before. When my son Cullen joined Hampden Elementary in kindergarten, we were coming from a situation very much like Victoria's, where he was at a daycare from a year old through pre-K, and it was a different environment. And the way that we so appreciated the transition and the mitigation from one set of communications and protocols to another was the openness in which the leadership of the school and other parents, frankly, and it doesn't have to be through email or phone, it could be on the playground. That's where we got all of our information and word of mouth. Start those processes now. I think that there's no bad question. I understand, especially for parents who are coming into school with their oldest or their only for the first time. It's a whole different world. And the best way to help navigate that is to lean on the resources at the school, at the PTO, and at Friends of Hampden, and avail yourself as many opportunities to sort of gather information as possible. It's a welcoming environment. It's a transparent environment. I think one of the frustrations for parents and administrators alike in the COVID age is that not all the decisions that we have to live under are taken by us. They come from levels above or levels outside. But as we start to ease off of COVID a little bit, hopefully, fingers crossed, the transparency has always been there, even if the answer has been, we don't know, we can't say, we hope, read between the lines. So avail yourselves of all of that. And certainly the PTO, Sam, Jill, myself, our secretary, Angie, are all here for you, however we can be.
I guess I'll ask one more question. Maybe it's more like an existential one, but as you've talked about, like through the COVID times, we've all started to do our jobs differently, and some things we probably think are improvements, and some obviously are detriments to the type of work that we do. Is there anything you guys have learned over the past year that you really want to carry forward into the future about how it could improve education at Hampden or socialization or whatever aspect it might be, things that you might want to keep?
I've really enjoyed hearing more of what the kids are learning, like kind of literally overhearing it. And if there's more of an opportunity to track along with them, I'm not nuts about turning in their assignments with my phone every day. Maybe we don't keep that part, but the kids are really kind to each other. That has been something that has, I don't know if it's classroom visits or whatever. There are a lot of opportunities. I'll put it into something actionable. Parents or the teachers are open to, when I've heard that they're doing some kind of lesson, I happen to know about that area from work or elsewhere in my background or whatever, they're warm to enrichment visits, I would call it. I hope that continues in the future. And yeah, it's been a pretty smooth year overall, I'd say.
I think one thing that we have always been aware of is that every student learns differently, right? And so thinking about how each student learns, and I think virtual learning has given us like a whole nother set of insight that we didn't have before, thinking about who does do really well with independent work, who is really missing that collaboration with each other the most and kind of thrives on that learning. I think as teachers we'll think much more carefully about how we incorporate technology moving forward. How can we use it in a way that is really productive? We're making how many less copies of things now? Like how can we use it in a way that can be really productive for us? And then what are the ways that we know these are the things our students need in person? Like we know what's most important now because we've been able to see what they miss the most. I think that's been something that we as a staff have talked about a lot.
Yeah,
and as for me as a parent, I think that one of the things that has become very clear is that, we're not talking about students, we're talking about children, and we're talking about knowing them in a whole other way than we have in the past, whether it's with their siblings that they introduce to us, whether it's their pets, but just that the kids have grown and been able to be more free and sharing some of their interests, and just being open to incorporating that more, as well as an engagement tool. So I just think that, it's definitely been something that I've been very pleased to see, that we're hearing less students and more children, because there's more to our kids than just this idea of school.
Yeah, and they've had a difficult time getting to that point, Miss Hunter. I know for my fourth grader, he's been in virtual school now for 14 months. He absolutely adores, I don't want to embarrass her, Mrs. Aliel and Mrs. Schumacher and Mr. Moo, and he hasn't seen them in 14 months. One of the things that we're focusing on, not only as parents but as PTO, is when we come back, what from the old ways can we leave behind, and what from this past 14 months do we really need to bring forward, and like Ms. Kroger said, tinker with and improve. But Ms. Hunter raises a wonderful point, and it goes not only to our students as children, but to our parents. It's been a hard slog for all of us, and we're looking at PTO process improvements. Like, for instance, do we keep at least every other meeting as a virtual one, because we found that our participation has really skyrocketed, because people can be home, they can be making dinner or hiding in a bedroom, but they don't actually have to be at the school at a certain time. So and to me, that just goes to our point and Sam's point about communication. I've told, and the PTO parents are probably sick of me saying this, but the communication is the most important thing. Keep talking to each other, keep sharing with each other. Let us know what works, let us know what doesn't. And for my part, the school has been great about that. So when things come out of where we are now, I expect even better things. And it's just sort of part and parcel with how great this community is and why we're so happy to be a part of it, why we share in its successes, like with Mr. Moo, and how we sort of rally around each other through tough times. I really do encourage everybody who's thinking about the school to take a long, hard look and sort of ask yourself what really matters. And I think that you'll find that the things that matter to you are the things that matter to the people on this Teams call.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Moo, I know you have to jump off for Fit Club in a second. Could you just tell us a little bit about fitness and physical education classes? There were some questions around that. So if you could, I know you can give us like a 60-second, show us all your passion in like 60 seconds. Go.
Okay. So yeah, I teach physical education and health, and it has always been something that I've looked for in an employer and in a place to work, that we constantly try to get better. We could be very comfortable with saying the same, but every single educator, every single person that comes through this building is always looking for ways to improve on the things that we do, to provide our students and to provide our kids with the most well-rounded and, vibrant education that they can possibly get. When it comes to physical education and health and the things that we do, I try to expose students to as many different activities and not necessarily sports as possible. Apart from physical education and health, I also co-chair the Green Team and I run the Safety Patrol. And all of those things sort of intertwine with the general community of the school. We work for each other. We take care of the building. We, different age students working with other students and just bringing other programs into the school. We just got word that we're going to definitely have Girls on the Run next year, which is a great program that, I'm just ridiculously excited about bringing. And there are other programs that were sort of down the pipeline, but all in all, fitness and, kids' well-being and their health, their mindfulness, and their ability to really take care of themselves physically, mentally, spiritually, socially. That's going to be one of our main focuses, especially in this really important transition back into in-person that we're going to be experiencing over the next year, year and a half.
Thank you. All right, before we do kind of our wrap up, any other questions anybody would like to ask while you have everybody here? Okay, so one of the questions that somebody asked on the survey that I thought was just a great question, and I think is a great thing for us to kind of wrap our session up with, is why Hampden? Like, if we had to explain in our 30-second elevator pitch, like, what is it about Hampden that you think is the thing that makes it different than other schools? And I thought it was a great question for a lot of reasons, but especially because you're trusting your little humans with us, and we know that that is a huge deal, and we take that responsibility very seriously. So anybody on our panel who wants to jump in with just kind of what do you think it is that makes Hampden different than other schools or the right choice for families?
There is one question in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Any science education in K and first?
Oh, good question.
So I can speak to, yes, there is. We do have dedicated time for science and social studies. In first grade, we have SABEs. In K, I'm not sure that we have that, correct? Am I wrong, Miss Hunter? Or did that change this year? I'm not sure.
I know this year a lot of them incorporated mystery science.
There you go, mystery science. Okay. So that was something we use as a supplementary online thing as well. But yes, we do. And they tend to center, especially in K, they tend to center around our reading themes or modules.
All right. Miss Aliel, I see you. Jump in.
Yeah, I was like, I guess I'll go. I haven't really said much. So in terms of the why Hampden question, I've always worked at Hampden. Before I was at Hampden, I was actually an intern at Hampden. So I went to Towson and I got my undergrad there and I interned at Hampden. And I knew from the first day that I was there that I wanted to work there. It's just such a great community. Everybody there is such a great, I can't really say it, but the morale is just so great amongst the staff members. And then I feel like that translates with the students. Because we have such tight relationships with each other, with administration, I feel like we have this space to feel like we can be ourselves around the students. And they really connect with that. They feel that we're genuine and we are genuine. This isn't my job. This is what I do. These people that I work with, these are my friends outside of my job. And so I'm really passionate about being here. I love it here. My husband and I are going to consider starting a family, and I hope that my kids can go to Hampden. So I hope that you guys choose Hampden. It's a great place to be. And I hope that I get to see them in 4th grade.
I'm going to add to that. That relationship is seen through the parent side of things, and the way the kids come home and talk about their teachers. Axel had Mrs. Everett last year, and I think she took the year off. But she occasionally comes to their Zoom meetings just to say hi and see how they are. And that the relationship building between teachers and between their students is why you should choose Hampden, hands down.
All right. Thanks, everybody. That was a great question in the chat about resources. We do not have a music resource. We have PE, art, and library. All right. Anybody else? Any questions before we wrap up?
Can I ask real quick? I know you don't have a music resource right now. Is it impossible to have that in the future, or something you guys are striving towards, or is like 3 the max that can be accommodated?
So I'll answer that one. It has much more to do with funding than anything. And our school is really at capacity when it comes to the number of students we have and how much money we receive for the students we have. So to offer fine arts, it was a choice between, it really is a choice between art or music, fine art or music, and we chose art. But we do have, I thought about this, Colorado, when you were talking about future makers, we have young audiences. And that's how we kind of infuse our music residency through our partnership with young audiences.
And we had what was the opera one year? We've had those enrichment activities.
Yeah, I can't remember. Was it Baltimore Opera Company? I think it was. Like, we really try to be creative about how we can infuse it, because I can't staff it.
They've also done clubs after school when time and schedules allow. My daughter was in choir for a few years at a after school club. My son did a younger music club, if I remember correctly. And then they do lots of extra little clubs here and there if, time and scheduling allows. They had Lego club and chess club, all sorts of fun things.
And Fit Club, which is happening in about a minute and a half, if everybody can attend.
Surprise, we're gonna force you all to do Fit Club, but no, I'm just kidding.
No, that was it was one more thing I wanted to make sure we noted, we pointed out, was that there are a magnitude of teachers that go out of the way to make sure that even though we don't have certain things, we can't afford music right now, you'll still feel like that's going on at school. There is music that will be played, and things that will be taught that aren't necessarily in my content area or in someone else's content area, but we know that certain kids learn best when they have an instrument in their hand, or when they're playing, or when they're listening to something. And we work really hard to make sure we incorporate that into every sort of learning experience that kids have.
All right, if there are no other questions for now, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I will send an email tomorrow with the email addresses for important people that we talked about, so that you have that. And any links for registration, I will send in there also. And if you have any questions after this, if you're anything like me, when I toured my son's daycare, I got in the car and thought of 35 questions and was like, how did I not just ask all of those? So I will send an email tomorrow. Feel free to email me with any questions you have, and I will get it to the correct person to get it answered for you. All right, thank you so much, everybody, especially staff members and current parents, for taking an hour of your Wednesday to come with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all. See you all later.